Hello my friends, and welcome to Philobites, the series where I talk about a variety of things that don't fit cleanly into the philosophy of games series on this channel. And today I want to talk about books about video games. I spent a good deal of time last year trying to put together a list of books about video games that I wanted to read in order to get more knowledgeable, more informed about the medium, game creation, the business surrounding it, the history surrounding it, and I also wanted to do a series where I reviewed those books as I read them. Unfortunately, they didn't seem to be as popular as I was hoping they would be. People didn't seem so interested, so the two books that I had read for that series were Console Wars and Blood, Sweat, and Pixels by Jason Schreier, and unfortunately, because the first one didn't go over so well, I decided not to make the second video either. But I had a lot of difficulty actually trying to even find games or books about games to read, and sort of especially trying to find books that are of the kind that I am most interested in, which are philosophical books, books that talk about the medium as a whole, the potentials of the medium, and engage with the art form in a philosophical way, trying to understand it from an ethical perspective, an ontological perspective, a aesthetic perspective, all of these different aspects that go into philosophy coming to inform a general theory about what a video game is and what its potential could be, what it can be used for. And the kind of books that I was finding were historical books, entertainment books. I'm counting on my fingers just below camera. Historical books, entertainment books. They were technical or textbook in nature, books about coding as it relates to games, and even, I guess, the most common literature about games were the little manuals, the instruction manuals that came in the game cases themselves when you bought a game in the past. And that's really it. And I found that these sorts of books were good for people who are already very invested in the medium, but they weren't outward facing. They weren't really meant to engage with people who were not dedicated fans of the medium, who play many different kinds of games and want to know the stories behind those games. The average gamer is someone who just casually plays a couple things on their phone in order to pass time when they're waiting for a meeting, when they're commuting to and from work. It is popcorn. It is a popcorn-type consumption of the media. The kind of person who is invested in AAA games, who plays all different genres, is significantly more rare. I think the second most common player of games are ones that engage in esport-like games and have that single game as their dedicated gaming experience. People who religiously play Call of Duty, people who religiously play the NFL game that comes out every year. They're not engaging with the medium as a kind of art so much as they are engaging with it as this is a recreational activity, specifically this one kind and no other. Gaming to them is not video games, it is this game that I have and like, this one game. And I think that's the majority of people who play games. And don't get me wrong, that is a massive part of the industry. The video game industry has grown to economically surpass all the other entertainment industries. It's bigger than music now, it's bigger than movies, and yet it doesn't have respect. It doesn't have that general level of cultural respect that the other mediums have. People don't really look at violent TV and say television causes violence anymore. They don't look at violent music so much and say the music causes violence. You still hear people talking about how video games cause violence. It happens every time there is a violent situation that gets political attention, that gets on the news, that then the politician looking to save face or looking to divert attention away from any real issue or thing that could be done to address the problem always goes to scapegoating video games. I also, just the other day, last week, I saw a news story, a feel-good story at the end of an hour of a parent making a phone video that they sent into the news, having a little live chat, complaining about their kid buying lots of skins in Fortnite and how they don't even know what a skin is, and the newscaster joking about how they also don't know what a skin is, and oh, those quirky games, you really gotta watch out for those games because they'll take all your money because your kid's at home playing games all the time now and you don't know what video games are. And I couldn't help but get upset at this news story because, like, if you're going to have any news story at all, you're the news. Your job is to get informed about something, and you willfully choose not to get informed so that you can laugh it off as a joke and wag your finger at a video game, when in actuality the story is parent invested so little in his son's interests that he refused to understand anything about the thing he was occupying his son with. He thought he got his son a free toy, when in actuality he was buying something entirely different, and gave his son a credit card, free to use, with no limits. That's irresponsible parenting. That is willfully ignorant parenting because he didn't understand the financial model of the game, didn't attempt to, and willful ignorance on the part of the newscast to make a joke of it. So the general perception of video games still in the public eye is either, oh, that causes violence whenever my political agenda is in danger from a violent outbreak I couldn't address, or, oh, isn't that so funny, look at this joke over here. There's no respect for the gaming medium outside of people who play games. And I would even venture to say that there's no respect for the gaming medium among the majority of people who play games because they aren't really invested. They are the casual market, the mobile market, are the majority of people who play games. That's just a fact of the industry, I feel, because everyone has a phone, and everyone's phone starts with a store upon which to buy a game, has games preloaded onto the phone. And as much as technical manuals about the construction of games, the economics of games, the learning how to create art assets for games and how to program are all important, valuable reads. The kinds of reads that people who are deeply invested in gaming as a hobby and a medium are probably most interested in. A book on philosophy about games has some particular advantages that can be pointed outward towards the general populace in order to garner that level of respect. And let me preface this, that when I say respect, I don't mean validation. Gaming as a medium struggles with the idea of being seen as valid in terms of its quality, I think mainly because it is an extremely composite media. It uses the tools, it uses the all the different kinds of media that exist in order to be constructed. Because it's an audiovisual medium, because it's a mechanical medium, because it has a temporal element that improves engagement, games are often judged merely on their disparate parts, not on being taken as a whole and respected as a whole. And that's its own issue. But Let me just say that when I say respected in the culture as a whole, I am not talking about being valid as an art medium in that conversation. That is something that can entirely be done within the gaming medium itself through the creation of games. A game does not need to hold itself to a standard of a different medium. I am not saying that a book needs to be made to prove that games are good, or that games are art, or that games are high art. That's not the purpose. The purpose of a book of philosophy about games would be one that shows the culture as a whole, the impact that games have on people, that it is something that is important, that is value-laden to a large portion of society, an impact on people's sense of self and on their sense of ethics, the way that they see value, the way that they engage with art at all, is the first step to getting that, base level of social respect. The second advantage of having a book of philosophy on games is that philosophy as a medium is one that elicits response. It elicits dialogue. It says, come have a real conversation with me about this topic so that we can understand it better together. The majority of conversation about games that happens outside of the audience of games is that either it is a topic of blame, being accused of causing violence, which has been disproven an infinite amount of time, but it doesn't matter how frequently it is disproven, it will always come up again, so long as there is not a culture of respect of the medium. And for two, it's a joke. And as long as the conversation about games is either that it is bad or a joke, not serious, not valuable, the cultural perception of games is not going to change. But why does the cultural perception of games need to change? Because when a culture accepts something as something to be proud of, something to promote, something to put forward, something to see as valuable, a culture invests. It becomes far more common for a person to see the value in it and actually want to pursue that value, rather than having to uncover it for themselves. It can be understood by even a child that, oh, this game is valuable, in the same way that, oh, the Mona Lisa is culturally valuable. A kid in art class does not know why people care about the Mona Lisa, but they know that the Mona Lisa is good art, and they try to learn why is that good. Eliciting respect for games media from people who are not a part of games audience, that are not a part of the industry or not a part of the market, creates a social level of support for the art and its potential. And that support will necessarily translate into the creation of more and different kinds of games the more people get invested. It becomes commonplace that a person can become a game maker. Once a society at large has established a general level of respect for an art medium, that art medium can go from being in its infancy to hitting a true renaissance, where the culture as a whole pushes for the exploration and expansion of the medium. As it stands right now, I still think that games are in their infancy. They have only existed for a number of decades, but because they are still so new, they are still scapegoated and ridiculed and not understood by even people who purchased them, people who could engage with them because it's in their homes, but they don't bother to because they don't have a respect for it. And they don't even have a respect for the people in their homes who do play the games. That renaissance, that moment where society says, I value this, is the moment that the medium will start to reach its greatest heights. Because people who are not even invested in games will dream about their potential, understand what makes them unique, discuss them in interested ways. Culture will push the medium to do more. And if you think we already have that, if you think that the indie game revolution is already doing that the AAA industry is already trying to push for greater and bigger and newer experiences, I can tell you it's still minor. And that's hard to say because, again, it's the biggest industry, it's the biggest entertainment industry out there now. It's still minor compared to when an art medium has free rein to explore and expand upon itself without the fear of arbitrary dismissal or attack. That's what I mean when I say a renaissance, a time when gaming is respected in culture as a whole. And it seems as though we're not going to get that just from the creation of games. I don't know what it is, but something about our society seems dead set on keeping games to be a constant scapegoat, to be the constant joke, to keep it from being taken seriously by people who aren't invested. Literature, painting, movies, television, music, all of the things that go into the different composites of games, all have that level of respect. And maybe a philosophical book about video games actually isn't the thing that will get you that respect. But I think that it would at least be a step. It's a piece missing from the puzzle at this point. Maybe there isn't one thing that will cause it to happen, but it's a piece that I don't see having been engaged with yet. And I want to see gaming, I want to see video games as a media hit that renaissance, that point where society does not automatically consider games to be dismissible. This video turned out a lot angrier than I expected it to turn out. I just wanted to make a video about how I think there should be broad appeal literature about games for people who aren't invested in the industry. But I guess I got mad. I guess I was actually just angry because of that news story and needed to vent a little bit. So there it is. There was a rant video about people not respecting video games enough. I don't know. They're not all going to be like this. They're not all going to be mad, sad, or other things. I'm going to try to actually just talk about things that I enjoy. But I'm making videos right now because I'm stuck in my house and there's nothing else to do for a YouTuber other than make videos. But whatever. If you made it to the end of this very salty video, go ahead and hit the subscription bell so that you can see other, hopefully less salty videos that I will make in the future. And hit the like button so that the extremely salty YouTube algorithm doesn't get mad at me and decides to share this video with other people who might be interested. Also share it with your friends and on forums online, like Reddit, so that I don't have to and become a dirty, disgusting, salt-covered video spammer. Thank you again, my friends. As always, stay true, and here's a breath of fresh air.